G'day folks, welcome back to Enshrouded and welcome back to Wistful Fields. Hope you guys are doing well. It's been quite a while since I've played some Enshrouded, but if I'm not mistaken, we are about to build our next, shall we call it maybe a dorm? Our next structure in the village that we're trying to construct here. And yeah, it's taken me a while between the previous episode and this one, but I did prepare a little bit just so that we can build pretty quickly, hopefully. I mean, I've done a few structures already, so I'm hoping it's not going to be as painful as all of the other ones that we've done. One thing that I do need to be careful of, though, is just the amount of space that we're giving ourselves each floor, because, you know, sometimes the ceilings can get a little bit too low. So I do want to just maybe give this structure a little bit of height, let's just say. Alright, so let's get started. I have prepared, you know, some building materials. I've only got like 4 different types of building materials. I believe this is all that we're going to need. Whether or not we have enough of it is questionable. We'll see. If we do need to end up, you know, crafting a little bit more, then so be it. And I can't exactly remember what I said in the previous episode in terms of the selections of the walls. Likely, maybe I decided that we were going to use flint for, you know, the walls. I think I may actually change my mind on that front, and instead of going with flint, we will go with the, not the rough stone, but the weathered stone blocks. Or sorry, the regular stone blocks, rather. So that's the plan, and then obviously there's also the matter of, you know, having some kind of flooring. I think this is what we're going to use. Let me just check what this is. Yeah, this is also regular stone. So, you know, I guess it could be a combination of regular stone on both fronts, but I think maybe I'm going to change the floor a little bit, actually. And that's the reason why I have weathered stone blocks here. And I believe I do use weathered stone blocks for other structures as well. So let's try and get that in. And yeah, we should really begin the build. So hopefully we'll be able to create something decent. Okay. It's a bit tricky, though, to know, you know, how we should start. I guess perhaps maybe building the ground floor, or what I presume to be the ground floor. The problem is we're building on a slope, so there's no specific place that we can say is the ground floor, but I will call this the ground floor, and then we sort of work our way up from there. We do have enemies in the area, so perhaps maybe dealing with some of these guys initially is a good idea, just to prevent random attacks from happening as we're building. Okay, so let's get back into it, and as I said, we'll try and do the ground floor, quote unquote, first. And then we'll sort of work upwards and downwards from there. I probably still need to do a little bit of carving out, in fact, because I've got all this stuff that I'm yet to break down from all of our carving efforts. In fact, I may just continue with the carving effort, at least for a little bit. And as I said, we're not really using the rough flintstone blocks, so might not be a bad idea for us to just use these to carve things out. Okay, so things are looking good for us to begin. So I think what I might do though is, well, we're gonna have to pause very soon because it's getting very dark. And I'm not really going to be able to do anything in all of this darkness, so we may as well have a sleep right now. And when we come back, I think the first thing we should be working on is just the floors. By the way, guys, I did see that there was yet again another update. I thought the last update would have been like the last like major content drop, but apparently not. There's quite a bit more. And I am in fact getting further and further behind because of the amount of time that I'm taking playing through this game. So there's like a couple of batches, or maybe even 3 batches of content that I haven't exactly seen. Hopefully we'll get there. But the fact that I haven't really housed all of my people is definitely, you know, holding us back. So that's why I'm super keen on trying to get people housed right now. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so that's the general idea of where this new structure is going to be. Again, I still want a little bit of a free area over here so that we can sort of walk between the 2 structures. And then, yeah, I'm just trying to think of whether or not I want to, you know, make any sort of quirky sort of elements to this home. I could possibly do with a little bit of extra space, although we are getting very close to the edge of the influence of where my flame altar reaches. But I don't know. We could possibly still extend it out a little bit more. That's obviously going to give me a little bit more, I guess, freedom to create a bit more space for the people that are actually going to live in it. Let me do a bit more carving here. Alright. Looks good. So, quirkiness, though. That's the question. So, I'm thinking I probably want, like, a little section that juts out over this side. So, I'm not entirely sure how to best do that, but what I might do is I'll just start with, you know, plopping down where the floors are going to be. Maybe I can remove that one. Maybe we can make it just a tiny bit smaller, like that. Yeah, so that could be kind of interesting. Again, I don't really have any specific plan on how this is all going to work out. But I think having, you know, a building that has a little bit of extra charm wouldn't be too bad. We could give this one, like, balconies and stuff like that. I haven't really done any balconies in any of the other buildings. So this one could have a nice balcony or something like that. Alright, so this should be, at the very least, a starting blueprint of what we want to do. But then we sort of need to build from here. So I might work my way upwards first and see how we fare that way. And I was sort of thinking, guys, about, you know, what I want to do once we do actually have, like, rooms and stuff like that. I probably want to just rush into giving people rooms and beds and stuff. I'm just thinking here about whether or not we've got, like, a weird issue that we will need to deal with. I think we would have a bit of an issue with the pattern not matching up if I built like that on top of the floor. So I'm gonna give myself even more space and sort of go with one block tile that way. So what will happen is, yeah, I'll continually build, like, additional walls, literally sort of on the outside of the floor itself. So the floor is contained within, and no parts of the floor are going to be jutting out, if that makes sense. Is that even in the right spot? Let me just make sure that it is. Yeah. So something like that. And since this is our first wall that we're placing down, I do also want to just immediately play around with the height of this. And really the crux of the issue is whether or not we're going to be able to fit a chandelier. So if I do something like that, unless they've changed the way chandeliers work, and perhaps maybe you could hang chandeliers from any height, then we need to accommodate for the heights, right? So I'm just going to see if I have a spare chandelier lying around, or perhaps maybe we can even craft one. Oh, actually, no, I do have a chandelier right here. So let me try and place the chandelier down.
Hey there! Hey!
And yeah, we'll again judge whether or not we need a little bit more space or what the deal is. Oh, interesting. I did not know that we had a first-person mode. I'm not sure if this is something new that's been introduced or what the deal is there. But yeah, if we do a chandelier, that's sort of how low the chandelier is going to come down with the height of the wall that we have currently. I think that's not bad. But yeah, if we didn't go 2 blocks higher, I think the chandelier would be obviously a little bit too low. We could even do, you know, a bit of a trick, really, to try and move the chandelier up a little bit more if we really needed to. But I think this is the right height. So I could put the chandelier back, but probably don't need to do that right now. We can continue with the build. So let's get to it. Right. I think this looks pretty good. Obviously, we're going to need, you know, windows and other small details, but we can deal with that much later. I think for the time being, just getting the basic shape right is good. So now we're going to, I would say, maybe continue downwards and just add the walls that need to sit below it. I'm wondering whether or not we want to do like stuff where, you know, perhaps maybe we're showing like just pillars holding up the structure. That could be cool, but then I do want like an underground area as well, like a cellar kind of room, a basement. So yeah, I'm a little bit confused how we're going to do all of that, but I guess we can just simply have a play around. So I do have quite a bit of material with me still, the regular stone blocks, so yeah, we should be able to get it done, hopefully. Right. I think that is looking good for the time being. Obviously, we'll need to carve out a basement at some point, but as I said before, I think it's probably a good idea for us to work upwards. Gonna need to decide where the main staircase is going to be. So, yeah, that's always a bit of a tricky thing to figure out, isn't it? Perhaps maybe we could do like a central staircase this time around. I know I tend to put like my staircases in corners and stuff, but I think it might be a good idea to do that in the middle. That way we might be able to sort of divide the room into two. By the way, I did put a staircase here, and I'm really not sure if this is going to be the entranceway or if we'll have like a different entranceway somewhere else. I could end up doing an entranceway just through here, and this is just, you know, some little nook almost. But I don't know. This entranceway is feeling good, all things considered. We could do like a side entrance over here as well if we wanted to, but yeah, let's not worry about those details. Not exactly a finer detail, but it is a detail nonetheless that we don't have to worry about right now. Let us go in with... I don't know if I have the right materials, actually. Another thing is fireplaces. So I do like me a good bespoke fireplace. So we're gonna have to make a decision on where that goes. Either it's gonna be on this wall or this wall, I would say. I'm just trying to make some decisions here, but yeah, I think it makes sense for the fireplace to be on that side. So when you enter, and if, you know, if we are indeed entering from this little section here, then this will be, you know, or people will be greeted by the initial, you know, living space, so to speak, with a beautiful fireplace on this side. This side, who knows? I mean, I'm not sure if we're going to have like another kitchen or something like that here. Probably not really required because we've got the other house as the main kitchen, and we didn't do that for the other structure housing, you know, the rest of the peeps. But yeah, maybe we could even start with the dorms on this side already. You never know. Or maybe like a nice library, and then we worry about housing people on the subsequent floors, and maybe even the basement. But anyway, let's start with the build of the staircase. Actually, one thing that might be good is for us to pull out other materials at this stage. And I do want to perhaps maybe test out, you know, what materials we actually used for some of the other builds as well. I don't actually have much half-timbered block. And we are going to need this very soon because, you know, the floor and the upper levels, generally I like to have that with the half-timbered blocks. So I completely forgot about making some of this, so I might need to do that this episode. So let me just do a quick test on what this stuff is. Refined wood, which we have, and we've got 1,000 of it, so that might be sufficient. But then the half-timbered blocks, that's maybe something that we need to fix up. What is going on here? I feel like the terrain has deformed a little bit. Yeah, everyone homeless is out here. I feel really bad. We're gonna house you guys soon. Don't you worry. Conifer wood blocks. That could look pretty interesting. Like, maybe very, very sleek. I don't mind perhaps maybe giving us a couple of batches of those, just so that we can test it out against other stuff. And then, yeah, I do want the half-timbered blocks. Do I have what it takes? Yes. Although we are running out of clay. I might be able to steal some clay from the furnace, as we are making like a lot of... I kept calling them fried brick, and someone rightfully, finally pointed out that I'm making a mistake there. It's actually fired bricks. There you go, guys. I've learnt something. But yeah, we're gonna need a lot of this actually, so I don't mind using it all. I might need to try and source some clay between episodes, so I'll do that. But yes, it's fired bricks, not fried bricks. Let's try and get a decent-sized staircase in. The other thing is, perhaps maybe I do need to work out where is the center of the build. So there's that. So what is this? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, actually, no. So that's 8. Am I getting 8 there, or are we doubling up? I think that's correct. So snapping can be a little iffy at times. 3, 4, 5. Six. Okay. 3, 5, 6. Okay. Yeah, so this is the dead center right here. Which means that we want to perhaps just want to work with the dead center area. Do I put the staircase like right bang in the middle? Because what we could potentially do is like have another pathway in this section here, so you can go around to the different sides on the ground floor from both sides of the building. That might not be a bad idea. So if I got rid of that, and I'm just thinking here, but if I do just 4 blocks like that as a guide, and then I can do the same thing on this side. Just so that we know where things are exactly. Gonna be night, which is kind of annoying. Maybe. But let's come back to it. Time for bed. We'll borrow Athalan's bed here. Again, I keep banging on about this, but it seems like they still haven't really fixed the whole people, you know, sleeping on the ground despite having a bed situation. Either that, or perhaps maybe I, again, need to just redo everyone's beds until it's sort of fixed itself. Anyway. So yeah, this should be center, if I'm not mistaken. It's a little tricky to get the right spot. Okay, so this might actually be working out, hopefully. The next problem is just making sure that we've got the second floor to land on. Probably are going to need to make some adjustments, but that's fine. So are we happy with that position? I think I should just test this once more with the... Oh no. Did not want to use that. Let's just place that back down. Yeah, okay, that's coming down a little low, isn't it? So I'd probably prefer just having the floor sit up higher, just slightly. Yeah, there we go. So, that does mean that we probably need to redo a lot of this. And just evenly distribute the amount of flights of stairs. Whoops, that's the wrong material. Let's try that again. Okay, so let's remove that. So how many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. So this middle section is already like the actual middle ground. So I think there's no winning either way. I think we could maybe just add like one more to the first set. I don't mind that. Yeah, there we go. That's not too bad. I guess if I wanted to make the staircase a little wider, though, this is going to be our chance to do that. So I think that's maybe a good idea. Beautiful. Alright, so I think I'm satisfied with the staircase. Again, detailing of what these rooms are going to offer, still questionable. Now that I think about it though, there is actually a lot of space on this side and this side. We could even argue for, you know, a fireplace in this position instead of over there. Although, you know, having it there would mean that you wouldn't really be able to put anything in front of it. Unless people are comfortable sort of sitting in tight spaces. Maybe it's not too bad because we could sort of create a bit of a quote-unquote, like, nook in this section. Another alternative, which actually I had only just thought about, is we could have the staircase just going in the one direction, this way. And then... yeah, that actually might not be a bad idea either. Then sort of we'll be able to have people's rooms on two different sides. Maybe. But I think I'll maybe settle with what we've built so far. Maybe that's another idea that I can keep in the back pocket for a new building if we decide that we really need another one. So with the staircase, you know, decided, I think maybe we could also start thinking about how the staircase is going to go down into the basement. So why not? Let's do it. Problem with basements is, yeah, we're going to have to do a bit more of that carving again. So yeah, let's see what we can do. Perhaps maybe it might not be too painful to get done. Okay, so at the very least, the carving of the basement is done, hopefully. There's probably a few areas, a few rough edges, which we might need to address, but that's fine. And yeah, because it's a basement, I wonder if we should consider using a different material for the stairs, or if we should continue using wood. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that front, actually. And I'm also not entirely sure how I should start the flight of stairs, or where I should start the flight of stairs. The other thing, I guess, is I don't know how deep I want the basement to be. Basically the same thing with the height of the walls that we've got on this structure. Perhaps maybe I do want to replicate that. Oh, I actually missed quite a bit over here. Let me just sort that out. Okay. So... yeah, I probably do want to replicate the height of the walls down in the basement, so... which might make things a little complicated. Yeah, I haven't carved things out, like, exactly, have I? Okay, I think that's roughly where things should be. Because the basement is concealed from the outside, obviously you could make it bigger if you wanted to. Right, so, walls. What I might do is just very quickly count how many actual blocks the height is here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from the floor. So let's take a look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, okay. We definitely need to go down a little bit more. Which means that there's a little bit more carving to do, unfortunately. Okay guys, so I think we've got things well carved out and well measured out as well for the basement. So this wall here should hopefully act as a bit of a guide. So it is 10 on the surface here, 10 blocks, but obviously there's an extra block that would go right in the corner, you know, which you can't really see once you've put the floor down. So that's sort of what we want to try and achieve. I get the feeling we're going to need like heaps of candles and whatnot to light up this area as it gets darker. But let's see how far we can get with just the lighting that we have. It might be a little bit dark, but I'm sure we can make it work. Or not. It's actually very dark. Things are looking pretty good for the basement. So I think the walls hopefully are accurate. Again, I keep finding small mistakes leading to really big sort of rework that needs to be done on some of the other structures that we've made. But, you know, I'm gonna live with those mistakes. Trying to be as accurate as I can in this particular build. One thing that we need to work on right now, though, is just getting more weathered stone. So let's see if I can make that pretty quickly here. I assume we only need just normal stone for that. Could be wrong. Yeah, weathered stone blocks. Running a little lower on stones, though. I think it's because I've probably been using quite a bit of it to make some of the walls that we're using. So I've used up quite a lot of our stone. So I might need to try and get some throughout the course of perhaps maybe some quests and stuff like that. But yeah, let's see if we can just place down a few more of the floor pieces in here. And I think we might be calling things an episode after that, because I probably need to do some prep work for the next episode and the next part of the build. Because we're going to need, I would say, probably heaps more of the half-timbered blocks that, I mean, we have some of, but I don't think we have nearly enough for what we want to do. Might try and use the snapping this time. That might help me do this a little faster. Yeah, I don't even have enough to completely place down the floor in this place. So we might need to call it. Hang on. What I could do is perhaps maybe get myself in and out of this place a lot faster. And I was already sort of contemplating, you know, what material should I use to try and, you know, make the staircase. We also need to figure out where the staircase will actually start from. So I don't know if it makes sense to do something like that, maybe. The problem with this, though, is that it then sort of encroaches to this area, which I want to try and avoid doing. And then I'm just looking at the material that we're using here, but that aesthetically doesn't really look very good, does it? It has this weird detail on the sides, which perhaps maybe is undesirable. Maybe we go with the regular stone block. So we have been using all of that for the walls, obviously. It does give us like this very sort of interesting pattern, which I don't know if I can say that I do like it. Or we could go a completely different route. Sandstone, for instance. But then that probably won't really match any of the other aesthetic that we have going on for the rest of the build. Any other options? I suppose I could maybe play around a little bit with other materials that we might have at our disposal. The other thing that I haven't played around with is the new conifer woodblock material. which we now have access to. Yeah, it looks very regal, doesn't it? It actually doesn't look too bad. I'm getting ideas now, guys. Maybe we could replace some of this stuff with it. How does the floor look? Yeah, it looks quite nice, actually. I still want the half-timbered blocks for the walls. But maybe we can just test this out very quickly to see what that looks like. It doesn't look too bad, does it? But I think I'll stick with the half-timbered blocks, because that's what we've got for some of the other structures. But now that I've seen what the staircase looks like with the conifer wood blocks, perhaps maybe we can replace this staircase with the conifer wood. Because, you know, all of this stuff looks quite rough. I think this looks much, much nicer. I don't think that's going to take us too long to do. Problem with conifer wood, though, is that it's quite difficult to find. Well, not difficult to find, but there's small amounts of it, which makes it a bit more difficult to gather, rather. But yeah, perhaps maybe I could do a bit of that prep work between episodes where I gather the conifer wood and we replace the floor on the second floor and the staircase with the conifer wood. And I reckon we'll be able to do that pretty quickly in the beginning of the next episode. And then we'll, again, continue with the rest of the build from there. I would say that we're going to make a start on the second story. Hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. If you did, drop me that like down below. Apologies for not playing for such a long time. So if you've been waiting for another episode, yeah, I appreciate you sticking with me. Anyway, I am signing out here. Stay true. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.